Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will present an introduction to the Gemara Masechta Shabbos on Daf Tesam Amud Beis. Let's begin. So this introduction consists of 4 points. The first point is about the clock of Torah. The way the clock of Torah works is as follows. It goes by the sun. So the start of the clock is at the beginning of the day and the beginning of the night, not right in the middle of the day and right in the middle of the night. Let's look at a day that began exactly 6 in the morning and a night that began exactly 6 in the evening. If one were to say it's 1 o'clock during the day or 1 o'clock during the night, it's not 1 hour into the day and 1 hour into the night. It's actually many hours into the day and many hours into the night. However, by Torah, when one says 1 o'clock, it means it's 1 hour into the day or 1 hour into the night. So it comes out that the clock of Torah is the exact opposite of our clock. Whereas by us, what we call 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 1 o'clock in the middle of the night, Torah will say is 7 o'clock because it's 7 hours into the day, and 7 o'clock because it's 7 hours into the night. So this is the main thing that we need to know about the clock of Torah that's related to our Gemara. There is one more difference and one more thing about the clock of Torah which we're going to mention. However, it's not directly related to our Gemara, and therefore we'll just mention it briefly, and that is that since it goes by the sun and it's always divided into 12 hours, since the clock of Torah we said is based on the daytime and the nighttime, and it's always divided into 12 hours. Therefore, the length of the hours changes. The day is not always exactly the same size as the night, where then it'll work out perfectly that there'll be 12 hours of 60 minutes. Rather, sometimes the day is long and the night is short, and sometimes the day is short and the night is long. And therefore, it comes out, since we will still divide the day into 12 hours and the night into 12 hours, no matter what, sometimes the hours will consist of more than 60 minutes, and sometimes they'll consist of less than 60 minutes. So this is the first point. The second point is about the carbon tamid. The carbon tamid is the daily carbon. Each day there was a carbon tamid shel shachar and a carbon tamid shel bein arbaim in the Beis HaMikdash. Every day they would bring 2 karbanis. The carbon tamid shel shachar was brought in the first part of the day, and the carbon tamid shel bein arbaim was brought in the second part of the day. And we're going to focus here on the carbon tamid shel bein arbaim because that's what's related to our Gemara. So the carbon tamid shel bein arbaim took 1 hour and it was brought in the second half of the day. The earliest it was brought is 6.5 hours into the day, and the latest is 8.5 hours into the day. So the carbon tamid, the earliest time it could be brought was 6.5 hours into the day, and there's different explanations given for why it could only be brought at 6.5 hours into the day and not 6 hours into the day. One of them is that that's when the sun already moved into past the middle of the sky, so then the second half of the day is considered to have begun. So that's the earliest time the carbon tamid shel bein arbaim was permitted to be brought. However, it was hardly ever brought at that time. It was only in rare occasions on Erev Pesach, based on the way Erev Pesach worked out. Sometimes it was brought at 6.5 hours into the day. The main time for bringing the carbon tamid shel bein arbaim was 8.5 hours into the day, which in our clock we would say we have the choices of 12:30 is the earliest, and the latest it could be brought would be at 2:30. And like we mentioned, it took a complete hour, so it comes out that the carbon tamid, the time of the carbon tamid shel bein arbaim was from 6.5 hours into the day until its conclusion was 9.5 hours into the day. And now we'll move on to what's related directly to our Gemara, which is about mincha gdela and mincha ktana, and we'll begin with mincha gdela. So mincha gdela is the big mincha. This is the earliest time for Tfilas Mincha, when there is still much time left for Tfilas Mincha. And like we said, the time for it is, this is right when the sun is past the middle of the sky. Like we said by the carbon tamid shel bein arbaim, it begins when the sun is past the middle of the sky, which is 6.5 hours into the day, which is the equivalent of 12:30 p.m. if the day was exactly divided, that it comes out that it starts at 6 in the morning and it ends at 6 in the evening. So the earliest time and the time of Tfilas Mincha, which is Mincha Gdela, is 6.5 hours into the day. And then we have Mincha Ktana, and that is the small Mincha. And this is the later time for Tfilas Mincha, when there is less time left for Tfilas Mincha. So it's the small Mincha. And the time for Mincha Ktana is 9.5 hours into the day. Like we mentioned, that the carbon tamid shel bein arbaim, the end of the whole process, when it was typically brought at 8.5 hours into the day, the end of its process was at 9.5 hours into the day, and then there's much less time left till the end of the day when mincha could still be davened, and that's the time of mincha ktana. So these are the 4 points that are the introduction to our Gemara.